It's a job to really. I've also seen some weblogs which were less effective in educating the public, which were more entertaining. But I think there is a wide balance. It's the same with the internet. If you go on the internet and look up whatever you want to study, some of it is very effective, some of it is not, and that's new information. You need to select your own choice.
And
I think with things like that, it's not only the media that's the issue, it's the audience. It's like in television, one person can take a message from something, another person can sit there, point and laugh. So there will always be someone that will take something from a media item, but you can't guarantee that, yes, this is an educational video, because some people just don't actually want to learn. But for me, the most positive aspect of these videos is that it is teaching our generation and the younger generations what war actually is, because I think we very much lost sight of that.
that was a follow-up question, which is, in terms of the effect of viewing these videos, reading these weblogs, do you think that the reality of war has an effect on mission support? Do you think that people can actually be more in favour of what we're doing, NATO's doing in Afghanistan, or less in favour because they see the realities of what war actually involves?
Everything is bound to be a double-edged sword, isn't it? I think if people have this sanitised view of warfare that we're often given by the mainstream media or whoever else, then they hear that, you know, we are fighting an ineffective enemy and we're vastly superior, and we see videos of bombs being dropped from high altitudes, but we're still losing soldiers, and we get a little bit confused. I think these videos do bring home the harsh reality of war in a way to people that can't experience it or don't want to experience it, and say, look, this is the reality on the ground. It might horrify you and make you not support the war, but at least you know the reality of the situation. These are young people directly under threat of death, imminent death. It's not a laser-guided bomb dropped from however many thousands of feet.
General, your opinion?
Two sides of it. One, explaining to the wider audience what the reality is for the soldiers on the ground is incredibly important. Not only the harsh reality of combat operations, but also what they do in helping the Afghan army, the way they cooperate with the Afghan army, the way they help with construction projects. But the other side of it is, of course, one of the major problems in Afghanistan is that we've got a population that cannot get information freely. We should allow our audience to get information freely and then make up their own mind. And it's in our interest to make sure that this information is as clear and as understandable as possible. It's not in our interest to hide information and then just, well, I don't think we should be in the business of selling what we do in Afghanistan. What we need to do is making sure that they understand how complicated it is, but also how incredibly important it is.
In terms of the audiences, you've both mentioned that. Maybe I could ask you about where you think this information is directed at. Clearly there's the double-edged sword that we mentioned before of the viewers in Western countries, troop-contributing nations, who are taxpayers who are paying for this war on one side. The Taliban, the insurgents on other sides, will be looking to recruit more enemy fighters. Hayden Hewitt, maybe if I can come to you first on that. Do you think that the audiences are equally divided on your side, or do you think that there's a predominant audience in certain countries?
There's a predominant Western bias to the audience. There's no doubt about that. It's a Western website. You know, obviously you'd find the opposite on a website from the opposite side, I imagine. I think all media has a propaganda value. Whether it's intentional or not, there is a propaganda value. And you can use media from either side to prove whichever point you like. You know, with the Taliban media, you could use some of it, look, aren't they, bloodthirsty killers? And then you could say, on the other hand, aren't they brave freedom fighters? With, our forces, the Western forces, you could say pretty much the same thing. You can use any media to prove any point you want if you want to twist it. And I think that's something that's been going on far too much. As the General mentioned, we're not seeing enough of the positive things that are being done in Afghanistan. Why isn't there a literal media blitz? It's not an expensive thing these days to do that sort of push through the new media. We should be seeing a lot more of this and let people really know what's going on in country, because from what most people know, it's a lot of combat, a lot of IEDs, a lot of RPG attacks, and a lot of very nasty, direct personal violence. We're not seeing any of the positive aspects at all.
But you have videos that are on Liveleak that are more constructive, less violent, less explosive. Do you find that those get the same number of hits, that people are interested in those kinds of subjects?
Let's be realistic. If a video's got something blowing up, more people are going to watch it. It's totally natural. And of course, the interesting thing, what I like about the more positive videos, they tend to spark a more interesting debate from my point of view than a lot of the firefight videos. With the firefight videos, it's directly polarised. People for, people against, whichever side happened to show the video. With the reconstruction efforts and the peacekeeping efforts, the debate tends to split that polarisation and people that think it might be a bit cynical or this was staged, because we don't see a lot of it. So you see this odd video crop up and it's, where did this come from? Is this really going on? It's just a soldier handing out sweets perhaps. But I think we do need a greater awareness of the positive aspects that NATO especially carrying out in Afghanistan.
General, if I can ask you about, we've talked about the mainstream media here. Do you feel that the new media is a complementary tool, or is it a substitute? And does it allow you to get things out that maybe the mainstream media are not so interested in covering?
And certainly, what the soldiers put on the new media and on their weblogs is an additional source of information. If we can use, and I'm already reluctant with the word use, because this is something natural, this is something happens, information being shared. But it does provide an insight in what it's like. So it allows decision makers to look at what does it really mean, what is this soldier going through, so that the understanding for this very difficult job becomes better. And if you then